Oh, hello again from Impavidus. Something on the table in front of me this week to repair. This is a PAR pump. It's a Jabsco 2.9. The model number is 31395. Quite a lot of you will have this pump on your domestic water systems. It powers the cold water from the tank out to the systems on the boat, so the aft shower, the heads. If you've got more than one heads, it will do both heads, your shower room, etc, etc. And it also pushes cold water into the chlorifier or boiler, where it gets heated up and comes out in the same places. So without more kerfuffling around, let's take a look at what's wrong with it. I'm pretty sure I know what's wrong with it. It's a common problem on these pumps, and it's a very easy fix. Right, first thing we're going to do, and I've actually got another pump so I can show you. This is our spare pump. So we carry a spare one of these, which is identical to Peter's. We keep it with us because if our pump fails, there's no way of getting our water tanks, which are below the waterline on this boat, or almost below the waterline, up to our faucets or taps or showers, etc. So we keep a spare pump. We've got one connected at the moment. It's not the same as this, but it's almost identical. It's a copycat make, and we keep this one as a spare. So what I'm going to do is just use this to illustrate the issues that you usually have with these pumps. So the first thing we need to do is we need to take this pressure switch off the end, and before you do that you need to undo the positive and negative cables, which just go through these little rubber feet. Rubber feet help to dull the noise of these pumps, but if you've got them, you'll know they're still quite noisy, and that's because they've got pistons inside moving the water. So this one has actually got a back plate that it's bolted to, so these look like they're M10 stainless. I'll just get an M10 driver and we'll take those out and take this pump off of here. Let's get one of those. So an M10 driver will just whiz these off. They've got some washers on the top of them. Okay, that's the backing plate off, and this one's got an extra set of rubber feet, look, that offset it from there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of those feet. 1, 2, 3, 4 stainless washers. 1, 2, 3, 4 M6 with a 10mm head. We'll put that down there for a moment. And the next thing we're going to do is just to remove these feet, like so. You'll see why in a minute. It just makes things easier, to be honest. And then there's a crosshead screw in the top here, and this is the pressure switch. So the pressure switch, yeah, there we go. So this pump has had water leaking in it, and you can see in there it's a bit mucky, and that tends to be the problem with these pumps. There's two things that stop them working. One is the pressure switch, two is the brushes wear out, and three is that the diaphragm here gets a hole in it and they start to leak. Now we've actually had this one apart before, so we know what's wrong with it. And I have the spares here. So the next thing to do is to remove these two screws here, and they're just snub-nosed self-tapping screws. They've actually got a double thread on them. Let's show you. So you see the nose on these screws is taken off, it's not pointy, snub-nosed, and there's a double helix thread on these, which is what is the best thread to use when screwing into plastic, which is what this is, obviously. So that's the pressure switch. There's a little diaphragm with a spring. Then there's a little push rod, I can get that out, a little short push rod, and then inside there's a chamber. Now we know that it's this pressure switch that's faulty because we've actually run this in the boat, but just to show you how you test it, put your multimeter on ohms and put it on bleep. So that's an audible bleep that you can set on this particular multimeter. Some of them have it built in, some you have to switch it on. And we'll put that across the switch. We've got no connection at all there. And we push the diaphragm in. It's working intermittently. It's working there. Right, so what should happen is, what's happening there now, you should have a continuous tone. So that switch is normally closed. The switch is actually closed like that. Now when the pressure builds up and pushes in on this rubber diaphragm, this switch goes open circuit. So it goes from closed circuit to open circuit. It breaks the power line to the pump, and the pump stops. As the pressure decreases when you turn the tap or faucet on, the bellows diaphragm there allows that switch to close again, making the circuit and turning the pump back on. Very simple. The only thing is that this pump is about 6 amps, I believe it is. Let's see what it says. Doesn't say, it will be in the specs. But I think they're somewhere between 4 and 6 amps. And these little micro switches just can't take that on and off forever. You know, they need to be a bit bigger. But if they made them last forever, they'd never sell another pump. So, diaphragm in, stops, diaphragm out, on it comes. You can see that little diaphragm there, look. And the other thing is that where this has had a leak at some point, I think what's happened is the leak has come down the hoses and then onto the head of the pump. It's actually destroyed the terminals, connection terminals there. So we're going to take that off, put that to one side, and by the magic of video we have the spare parts here. I'll just turn this off because it's got an auto switch off and it starts bleeping otherwise. So more fantastic plastic. What do we get? Wow. Destructions. French, German, Italian, Netherlands, Spanish, SE, that'd be Sweden I guess. Nothing in English. Marvellous. Brilliant. Okay, well we'll throw them away then because they'll be no good. There is the new switch. You see the diaphragm on the back there. You see it's just clicking on and off there. There's the pressure switch adjuster there. And then there's the two terminals. So it's actually an extra diaphragm, another diaphragm there to replace, and then we've got to replace those other bits inside that pump housing. So first thing in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a torch because the sun is so bright outside. We've had to draw the curtains to stop it casting sunlight all over the video, but now of course I can't see inside the pump, so I'm just going to get a torch and a piece of rag so I can wipe that out and put it in properly. Dry that out in there, clean it up. First thing we want to do is to put this piece back in. Now see if you can see that. As a small O-ring which goes round the outside and makes a seal with the pump housing. Let's get some of this water out of here. You can see that where that seals, and that leaves that plunger, the probe facing upwards. Let's see if it shows me in Swedish or Spanish that on a diagram, then I can show it to you. No, it doesn't. So let's put these pieces back in then. The first piece to go in is this little plunger with an O-ring on. The O-ring goes in and faces the pump head, and then we have a spring which looks like it's a stainless steel spring. Then there's the hard, what would you call that, seal, hard plunger, hard seal, hard plunger. That's got a little ditty on it, and it'll only go in one way. So you put it over the spring, line it up, and then that new rubber diaphragm goes in. Like so. I'm holding that in with one finger, and then our new switch. Now I've put some dielectric grease on those terminals and just dropped the screws in for now. It's all very tight. I wonder if that would go better if I put that on there first. The spring is pushing that diaphragm out. Slide that on. There we go. One screw goes in. What we do with these screws, just turn them backwards till they go click, so that you don't cut a new thread. There it goes, click. Same this side. Just turn it anti-clockwise. There it goes. Otherwise what happens is you cut a new thread and actually damage the pump head. These don't need to be super tight, just tighten them up, just past finger tight. There we go. Now we've got a new cable, but we're not going to use that because it hasn't got an end on it. We're actually going to use the old one because it's got new ends on it. And again, as I say, a little bit of dielectric grease went on those just to help them survive the rigours. That's the 4 feet on. Now this is the positive supply. Positive supply comes in, goes to the switch, and the switch is either open or closed. Stays on until the pressure comes up, pushes the diaphragm out, which turns the switch off or opens the switch, and then the current can't flow. And this is the negative. So a new cap goes on there. We can actually adjust the pressure at which that goes on and off. Put the new cap on there. That's it. Just these cables come out of that little housing. There we go. So what should happen now is when I put the meter across there, is that this will stay on constantly until the pressure builds up, and then the switch will open, turn the pump off. And this particular system doesn't have an air tank that keeps the pressure relatively constant. It just relies on this pump. It's good enough. You don't get cycling on the pump. It's the same as our one here. As I say, there's only a couple of things that go wrong with these pumps ever, or in my experience, and that is the pressure switch fails with the constant opening and closing and the arcing of the switch, because there's quite a few amps that these things draw. The other thing is the brushes. You can buy new brushes for them. To be honest, if the brushes are gone, it's not going to be that long before the micro switch goes, because it's the micro switch normally that goes first, and the actual pump head gaskets, and you can buy a new gasket set for them. Again, they're pretty easy to repair. There's 6 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You take those 6 screws off, and inside there's 3 little pistons, 3 little diaphragms, and you literally just swap out light for light. Really simple to do. But the thing to remember, which is really important, is if you've got a boat and you've got an electric pump that takes your water from your freshwater tanks to your faucets and your showers and the heads and what have you, then carry a spare pump. Because if you're, a couple of days out from somewhere and you can't get the water out of your tank, and the only way to get it out otherwise, if this pump fails, is to literally undo the inspection hatch and take it out by the cupful, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. They take about 10 or 15 minutes to exchange, one pump straight over for another, and you can then repair the broken pump at your leisure and get the parts. So that's it. That's the simple, quick, easy fix for a Jabsco pump. It's nearly always the pressure switch that fails. If it's not the pressure switch, it's the brushes, and if the brushes are gone, my experience is that it won't be long before this goes, and you have to change it anyway. We'll put this back on the backing board. There we go, and 4, which is that one there. All the same way around. and that pump goes that way up. There's one. Get one in there. Two. 4, that's it. Put it on the boat and plug it back in. That's it. Job's a good one. Well, I hope this has been of use for you. It's one of those things that you at some point on your boat you will have to do. You will have one of these electric type pumps fail. It'll either be your deck wash, which could be salt water or could be fresh water. It will be your water maker pumps, because you'll if you've got a Clark pump type of water maker, it has 2 of these type of pumps on it, excuse me. Or it might be that you've got more than one pump separating different tanks or different heads or whatever. You will have one of these pumps fail at some point, and you will need to know how to A, change it, which is fairly easy through these tabs here, self-explanatory, but B, more importantly, you will need to be able to replace it on the move and then repair it while it's off out the way, and so that you can still get water out of your tanks. Hope that's been of use to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's down there. Is it down there? Was it down there? Like and subscribe. Share with your friends, and buy us a coffee or a beer if it's helped you out. Links in the description. See you next time. Bye for now.